We're gonna piss off the TikTokers with this one. If you've been on the internet pretty much anywhere since the Reze movie dropped, you've probably seen the Bakugo versus Reze matchup popping up everywhere. And I mean literally everywhere, from Twitter to TikTok to debate forums. You name it, it's probably being talked about on there. And the truth is, the matchup is so one-sided that it's honestly embarrassing, and is probably one of the best examples of recency bias in the last couple of years. Similar to when Saitama versus Garo dropped, and more recently, Empty Void came out and did some shit with like universes, and people attributed this to he can beat Goku. Anyways, without yapping too much about it, Bakugo versus Reze, let's talk about it. And while you will see examples of Bakugo demonstrating bigger explosions than Reze, this isn't the only viable metric of power that should be used and applied when it comes to finding out how strong said characters actually are. So when we get into calculations and the upscales that are involved in scaling these characters, if you're unknowledgeable on how this works, just think of the higher jewel numbers that I bring up equal better feats. Starting off with Reze, since she blatantly scales to Denji in his chainsaw form, we can easily apply any prior Denji feats to her own attack potency, with one of Denji's earliest feats, along with power, being able to smash the Cucumber Devil into paste. With the Cucumber Devil being made up of flesh and bones, the energy generated to waste the Cucumber Devil comes to around 0.0099 tons of TNT equivalent. And this is about chapter 5 of the manga, and with one of her more direct feats coming from being able to stop the Violence Fiend dead in his tracks, with the Violence Fiend being capable of creating a crater in the ground, coming out to around 511 tons of TNT, which scales to around multi-city block level. There's also the fact that the Typhoon Devil practically admits inferiority to Bomb Girl, and the fact that the Typhoon Devil is able to create a storm massing the entirety of Tokyo, Japan, with the Tokyo area massing a whopping 2,194 square kilometers in radius, resulting in around 2.37 megatons of TNT in equivalents of energy, or around small city level on the high end. This is consistent as in chapter 49, the Typhoon Devil is able to cause a tornado of its own organs, seeing as though the Typhoon Devil is able to lift cars off the ground, blow out windows as well as the outside walls. It fits the description of an EF3 on the enhanced Fujita scale. The EF scale is what rates tornadoes based on the severity of the damage they can cause, with an EF3 tornado having winds of around 136 to 165 miles an hour, and can cause severe damage, including entire stories of well-constructed houses being completely and utterly destroyed, cars being hurled, and large trees snapping or being uprooted, which ultimately comes out to around city block to multi-city block. And with things like Angel being able to react and block bullets, this should easily be putting these characters in the subsonic plus levels of speed, with one of the higher end feats in the Chainsaw Man series being the Gun Devil at 20%, being able to travel great distances. The Gun Devil starts moving at 318.22 and ends at 318.25. The segment from Nihako to the end lasts 3 seconds, which comes out to around high hypersonic. As far as hacks go, being the Bomb Devil is pretty self-explanatory. She has the ability to create explosions seemingly out of thin air, with none of her own explosions having any noticeable negative complexities on herself. And like every other devil in the series, she becomes stronger through fear, since the more feared a devil is, the stronger it becomes and manifests. As far as the movie takes it, she doesn't really perform anything too crazy in comparison to her manga counterpart. For the most part, she should be just higher into the aforementioned tier power, since she seems to be doing these things effortlessly. She's also borderline immortal. As long as her heart is intact, she cannot die, and as long as she's high on blood, she will regenerate. So unless her heart is destroyed, she can regenerate and come back. Bakugo has varying feats throughout the series, but for simplicity's sake, we'll start with the notable ones from earlier in the series. In Heroes Rising, Deku and Bakugo are able to completely disperse a storm created by 9. Applying the inverse square law on the area of this explosion, Deku and Bakugo's Detroit Smash comes out to around 157 gigatons of TNT, or large island level, with a much looser scaling is with Bakugo being weaker than but comparable to an incomplete Shigaraki's heavy air cannon, which is Shigaraki using a manifestation of all of his quirks to create a blast or air that dissipates a large portion of clouds in the process, with the air cannon itself coming out to around 16.25 teratons of TNT, which at a low end is about country level, with calcs on the higher end coming out to around multi-continental. As for speed, Bakugo is able to dodge attacks from pre-AFO Death Shigaraki, and is fast enough to speed blitz the likes of Shigaraki, with Shigaraki being stated to, at a point in the manga, be on par with All Might in his prime. There's also things like Chimera being able to react to the naval laser, which comes out to around 1.27 times faster than light. Since Shoto can keep up with Chimera going all out, he would at least be relative in speed. And Deku in the Endeavor's agency arc at 10% full power is able to move at the same speed as Todoroki's ice, meaning 10% Deku would also scale to this. So using simple math and the fact that Deku at a 10th of his full power, he should be moving at around 12 times faster than light. Some people might bring up the fact that Prime All Might only had a top running speed of around Mach 10. However, this would only apply to All Might's travel speed and not his reactions or combat speed. For reference, it wouldn't make much sense for these characters to dodge lasers or explosions while moving only at Mach 10. That's completely illogical. So the only conclusion is that Hirokoshi is referring to how fast All Might can run in this scenario. During the Kamino incident, we know it took All Might around 30 seconds to run 5 kilometers, which is just under Mach 0.5, which gives us a very concrete multiplier for modern All Might to Prime All Might, which is 20 times. And Deku at 45% is capable of keeping up with Shigaraki, who is claimed to be Prime All Might level several times, meaning 45% Deku would be 254 times FTL, and Deku at his full capacity at 100% could be reaching 558.8 times FTL. And even with Gear Shift being at its lowest possible level, Deku is able to Perception Blitz Shigaraki, meaning that he should be treading 1,000 times FTL in Gear Shift. All in all, Bakugo should be at least MFTL. For fun, if anyone wanted to bring up some absurd arguments on behalf of Reze, you can unironically argue things like Bakugo needing the kinetic energy of the Big Bang to release the final tome, which is a pretty funny statement. Go crazy with it, make some people mad. Being reasonable on the ends of both Reze and Bakugo, Bakugo slams. No difficulty. Bye.